This is West Quoddy Head Lighthouse, right at the edge of the United States. In fact, if you go any further east than here, you'll hit Canada. West Quoddy Head is known for its unique candy cane type appearance, and in the summer, you can take tours of this historic lighthouse. But today we're here to explore a claim that the somewhat ironically named West Quoddy Lighthouse makes, that of being the easternmost point in the USA. In fact, there's a stone right over there, if you can see it, that makes that exact claim. So, is this true? Technically, maybe, with some caveats. It's kind of complicated, but let's go into it. The first problem is that rock right over there. That is Sail Rock. It's technically US territory, and it's also technically further east than West Quoddy. Here are the coordinates compared. I'll put them on screen. And as we can see by looking at the coordinates, yes, technically, Sail Rock is further east than West Quoddy. And yes, technically it's further, but it is uninhabited, other than the occasional puffin or seal. So, you know what? We'll be generous, we'll be charitable, and we'll give that one to West Quoddy. West Quoddy can keep the easternmost point. The second problem is actually south of us. If we go all the way down to the Caribbean, to east of Puerto Rico, we have the US Virgin Islands and Point Udall. So Point Udall, I'll put those coordinates up on screen here, and then compare that with West Quoddy. We can see that Point Udall is actually further east than West Quoddy Head Lighthouse. But I hear you saying, that doesn't count. It's not a state for now. It's a US territory. West Quoddy Head is still the furthest east you can get. And if we make a distinction, I will agree with you. So we can say that West Quoddy Head Lighthouse is the furthest east you can get in the contiguous United States. And then in all of the United States, Point Udall is actually the furthest east that you can get. Happy? You are? Good, because I'm about to ruin that for you. There's one more spot that we need to talk about, and to understand that, we need to first understand where east and west even come from. The prime meridian and the 180th meridian cut the Earth into eastern and western hemispheres. Because most of the US falls into the western hemisphere, we can make the claims we did with West Quoddy and Point Udall as the easternmost points in the western hemisphere. But note how I said most of the United States. If we move from the western hemisphere to the eastern hemisphere, the US has some territories there as well. Guam, Saipan, Wake Island, and these are all technically further east than any of the territories we said before, because we can say the eastern hemisphere is further east than the western hemisphere. Which brings us to the Aleutian Islands. The Aleutian Islands are a chain of 69 small and large volcanic islands that belong to Alaska. This chain runs right up to and over the 180th meridian, making, and excuse the pronunciation, Amtignac Island the westernmost point in the US, and Semisopochnoi Island the easternmost point as it crosses the 180th meridian into the eastern hemisphere. This makes Alaska the most northern, western, and eastern state, longitudinally speaking, in the United States. But we're not on Amtignac Island or Semisopochnoi Island today. Rather, we're at West Quoddy Head. So, is this stone commemorating this spot as the easternmost point in the US correct? No, not technically, but they could just make one change. If they said the easternmost point in the contiguous United States, then West Quoddy could get away with that claim. As of now, the stone is incorrect, but it's still a beautiful historical lighthouse here at the end of the contiguous United States.